Marcus stepped forward, desperate. Ethan, you can't. We have buyers interested, contracts being drawn up. I'm withdrawing all the pieces, Ethan said firmly. Tonight was never about selling. It was about truth. And now that the truth is out, these paintings have served their purpose. He looked at Lily. Come with me, please. We have 20 years to talk about. She nodded, wiping her eyes. I'd like that. 6 months later, the studio had changed. Sunlight poured through clean windows. Fresh canvases waited on easels. Paint tubes were organized by color. The smell of turpentine mingled with fresh coffee and the scent of flowers from the garden. Ethan stood before a new painting, a portrait of Lily. She sat reading in the same chair Elena had once posed in, but everything about this painting was different. It was honest, simple, real, no hidden layers, no secret messages, just a father painting his daughter, capturing the ordinary miracle of her presence in his life. How's it coming? Lily called from the kitchen, where she was making lunch. She had moved into the guest room 3 months ago, taking a semester off from college to get to know her father. They cooked together, talked late into the night, discovered shared loves of old music and terrible puns. Almost done, Ethan called back. On his desk sat an envelope from Sophie. Inside was a clipping from an art magazine. Marcus Holloway's gallery had closed. He had declared bankruptcy, and Sarah had left him. The art world had moved on to new scandals, new stories. Elena's name appeared occasionally in articles about artistic revenge, but with each passing month, the story mattered less. She had become a footnote, a cautionary tale, a memory that no longer had power over him. Ethan picked up his brush. He had thought revenge would set him free, but it hadn't. Revenge had only shown him what he'd lost. The letter was brief. Ethan, if you're reading this, I'm gone. Our daughter's name is Lily. She's smart, kind, and talented. I never told you because I was afraid you'd feel trapped, afraid I'd ruin your career. But she deserves to know her father. If you can find room in your heart for her, please try. She has so much of you in her. Maria? Ethan looked up at Lily. Really looked at her. Her eyes weren't Elena's. They were his, the same gray-green he saw in the mirror every day. You're my daughter, he whispered. She nodded, tears streaming down her face. I didn't know if I should come, especially tonight. But I saw the exhibition announcement, and I thought maybe it was a sign that I should finally meet you. The choice. The gallery fell away. The UV lights, the exposed betrayals, Marcus and Sarah's destruction, none of it mattered anymore. Ethan stepped forward and pulled Lily into an embrace. She stiffened at first, then melted against him, her shoulders shaking with sobs. I have a daughter, Ethan said into her hair. I have a daughter. Around them, the crowd didn't know how to react. This was supposed to be an evening of artistic revenge, of scandal and exposure. Instead, they were witnessing something far more profound. A broken man discovering he wasn't as alone as he thought. Sophie approached quietly. Mr. Clark, the media outside is asking for statements. What would you like me to tell them? Ethan looked at the paintings surrounding him. His masterwork of revenge. Each piece perfectly executed, devastating in its revelation. He had succeeded. Marcus's career was finished. Sarah's reputation was destroyed. Elena's carefully constructed image had shattered. But standing there with his daughter in his arms, he felt something unexpected, emptiness. The revenge hadn't healed him. It had only exposed wounds that would take far more than paint and light to mend. Tell them, Ethan said slowly, that the exhibition is closed. These painted. Sarah moved toward the door, but guests blocked her path, their faces a mixture of shock and fascination. She turned to Marcus, her voice shaking. You said she meant nothing. You said it was over when she died. Sarah, not here. Marcus reached for her. She slapped his hand away. You told me I was different. That what we had was real. The room watched their relationship crumble like paint flaking from an old canvas. The unexpected guest. In the chaos, no one noticed when the gallery door opened one more time. A young woman entered, maybe 20 years old, with dark hair and familiar eyes. She stood in the entrance, taking in the UV-lit paintings, the arguing couple, the stunned crowd. Then she spoke, her voice cutting through the noise. Excuse me. I'm looking for Ethan Clark. Every head turned. Ethan looked at her, and his heart stopped. She had Elena's cheekbones, Elena's mouth. But her eyes, those were different. They were kind, uncertain, real. I'm Ethan Clark, he managed. The girl stepped forward, clutching a worn envelope. My name is Lily Martinez. I think you're my father. The room erupted in whispers. Marcus's argument with Sarah stopped mid-sentence. Even the string quartet had ceased playing. Ethan couldn't breathe. What? Lily's hands shook as she held out the envelope. My mother gave me this before she died. She said if I ever wanted to know about my father, I should find Ethan Clark. She said she kept me secret because she wasn't sure you'd want me. We weren't together when she got pregnant. It was just one night, years before you met Elena. Ethan took the envelope with numb fingers. Inside was a letter in handwriting he recognized. Not Elena's, but someone else's. A woman he had dated briefly in college. A relationship that had ended amicably 21 years ago. He had lost touch with her. He hadn't known. Plan. Marcus counting money while Elena posed. Sarah on the phone, the UV-revealed text bubble reading, "Don't worry. He'll never suspect us." The gallery had become a crime scene, each painting a piece of evidence in the elaborate betrayal. Marcus's face drained of color. He stumbled backward, knocking into a sculpture pedestal. Sarah froze in place, her hand pressed against her chest, her mouth open in silent shock. What you're looking at, Ethan said calmly, his voice carrying through the stunned silence, is 3 years of lies. 3 years of planning. 3 years of my wife conducting an affair with Marcus Holloway while I painted her like a saint. The unraveling. A respected art critic stepped closer to one painting, studying it with professional intensity. The technical skill here is extraordinary, she said, her voice filled with reluctant admiration. 2 complete paintings occupying the same space. The surface image and the hidden truth, both executed flawlessly. It's documentation, another observer said. Not just art. This is evidence. Marcus found his voice. This is a lie. Ethan, you've lost your mind. Elena would never. I have her journal. Ethan interrupted, his voice cold. 3 years of entries detailing your affair, your promises to make her famous, your plan to profit from her divorce from me. I also have emails, text messages, hotel receipts, and signed testimony from witnesses. He gestured to Sophie, who stepped forward with the folder, including documentation that you, Marcus, are nearly bankrupt, that you needed this exhibition to save your failing gallery, that you attended my wife's funeral and offered to represent my work, not out of sympathy, but out of financial desperation. Marcus's face twisted with rage and fear. You can't prove. I can prove everything, Ethan said. It's all here. Every lie, every betrayal, every moment you thought I was too blind with love to notice. Ethan returned her hug stiffly. Over her shoulder, he could see Marcus watching them, his face carefully neutral. Sophie stood near the back of the gallery, dressed simply, her presence unnoticed by most. Their eyes met briefly. She gave him a small nod. It was time. Thank you all for coming, Ethan said, his voice cutting through the gentle conversation. The room quieted. Glasses stopped clinking. All eyes turned to him. Tonight, I want to share something special with you. A tribute to my wife, Elena, and to the truth about love, art, and devotion. He paused, pulling the small remote control from his pocket. What you're seeing now is only the beginning. Each of these paintings contains multiple layers, much like people themselves. With your permission, I'd like to show you what lies beneath the surface. A ripple of interest moved through the crowd. This was unexpected. Artistic revelations like this didn't happen at standard gallery openings. Marcus stepped forward, confused. Ethan, what are you? Ethan pressed the button. The light of truth. The overhead lights dimmed. In their place, UV lights flooded the gallery with an ethereal purple-blue glow, and the paintings transformed. Gasps echoed through the room. A woman's champagne glass slipped from her fingers, shattering on the marble floor. No one noticed. The beautiful portrait of Elena in the garden now revealed a second image underneath. Elena locked in an embrace with a man whose face was clearly visible. Marcus Holloway. In the background, barely visible but unmistakable, were burnt canvas fragments. Another painting, Morning Light, which showed Elena reading peacefully by a window, now displayed her sitting at a laptop, the screen visible in UV paint. Email text appeared. When are you going to leave him? I'm tired of waiting. Every painting held secrets. Elena destroying Ethan's artwork. Elena and Sarah toasting with wine, documents spread between them labeled divorce settlement. Opening night arrives. The Holloway Gallery glowed like a jewel box on the corner of Fifth Avenue. Black limousines lined the street, depositing guests in evening gowns and tailored suits. Photographers crowded the entrance, their cameras flashing like lightning. The city's art world had turned out in force. Critics, collectors, museum curators, and society pages darlings. Inside, champagne flowed. A string quartet played softly in the corner. The paintings hung on white walls under warm, gentle lighting, each one more breathtaking than the last. Guests moved through the space with wine glasses in hand, murmuring appreciation. Stunning, a critic whispered to her companion. The way he's captured her essence, it's heartbreaking. A true love story, someone else agreed. You can feel his devotion in every brushstroke. Ethan stood near the entrance in a black suit, his hair trimmed, his beard neatly shaped. He looked like the artist they remembered, polished, successful, elegant. Only his eyes betrayed something different. They were harder now, watchful, like a hunter waiting for the perfect moment. Marcus worked the room with practiced charm, introducing collectors to critics, steering wealthy patrons toward the paintings with the highest price tags. His desperation had transformed into manic energy. He needed this night to succeed. His entire future depended on it. And then Sarah arrived, the bride-to-be. She walked in wearing a silver dress that caught the light with every movement. Her engagement ring, a massive diamond that must have cost Marcus money he didn't have, sparkled on her finger. She smiled and waved to familiar faces, playing the role of supportive fiancé perfectly. When she saw Ethan, her expression shifted into practiced sympathy. She approached with arms extended, pulling him into an embrace that smelled of expensive perfume. "Ethan," she breathed, "these paintings are magnificent. Elena would be so proud. You've honored her memory beautifully." Marcus hesitated for only a second. He needed this too badly to argue. "Of course, whatever you need." They shook hands. As Marcus left, already on his phone making calls to critics and collectors, Ethan returned to his paintings. He selected one, Elena in profile, gazing at something off canvas with an expression of longing. Under UV light, the image revealed what she was looking at: Marcus holding bags of money, while Ethan's burnt paintings smoldered in the background. "Perfect," Ethan whispered to the empty studio. The guest list. Over the next month, Ethan worked with meticulous care. He agreed to Marcus's suggestions for the guest list, but added his own names. Every person who had been at his wedding. Every critic who had praised Elena's devotion. Every friend who had offered condolences while knowing the truth. And Sarah, especially Sarah. "I'd like to invite your fiancé," Ethan told Marcus during one of their planning meetings. Elena would have wanted Sarah there. They were so close. Marcus's expression flickered, just for a moment, with something that might have been guilt or fear. But his smile returned quickly. Of course, Sarah would be honored. Ethan also sent personal invitations to people Elena had wronged. Sophie received one. So did 3 other assistants Elena had fired. An artist whose work Elena had sabotaged to help Marcus's gallery. A photographer Elena had stolen ideas from. Each invitation was worded carefully. "Join me in celebrating the truth about love and art." A revelation not to be missed. Most accepted, curious about what the reclusive Ethan Clark had created. Some came seeking closure. Others came hungry for drama. All of them would get more than they expected. The night before, the evening before the exhibition, Ethan stood alone in the Holloway Gallery. The paintings hung perfectly, each one lit with standard gallery lighting. They looked innocent, beautiful, exactly what everyone expected. "This is Ethan Clark. I'd like to speak with Marcus Holloway about a possible exhibition." The meeting. Marcus arrived at Ethan's studio 3 days later, barely able to contain his excitement. He wore an expensive suit that didn't quite hide his desperation. His eyes were too bright, his smile too wide. "Ethan," he said, extending his hand. "I'm so glad you reached out. I've been hoping you'd feel ready to work again." Ethan shook his hand, feeling the weakness in Marcus's grip. The man was drowning, and Ethan was his life raft. "Come in," Ethan said. "I want to show you what I've been working on." He led Marcus through the house to the studio. When Marcus saw the paintings, his reaction was exactly what Ethan had expected. His mouth fell open. His eyes widened. He moved from canvas to canvas, transfixed. These are, Ethan, these are extraordinary, Marcus breathed. The emotion, the technique. You've outdone yourself. This is exactly what the art world needs right now. Beauty, love, genuine feeling. After all the abstract nonsense and political statements, people are hungry for real art about real emotion. The irony wasn't lost on Ethan. Marcus praising genuine feeling in paintings that documented his own betrayal. I want to do a complete retrospective, Ethan said carefully. All 32 pieces. A tribute to Elena. Call it eternal devotion, a husband's farewell. Marcus's eyes gleamed. Perfect. Absolutely perfect. We'll make it the event of the season. Black tie, champagne, the whole city's elite. I'll get coverage from every major art publication. This will be. He paused, calculating. This will save us both, Ethan. Your reputation as the great romantic artist, and my gallery's status as the premier venue for important work. There's one condition, Ethan said. Anything. I want control over every aspect of the exhibition. The lighting, the layout, the guest list, everything. This is my tribute to my wife. It has to be perfect. Ethan leaned back in his chair, his mind racing. Marcus had planned to steal his wife, destroy his marriage, and then profit from his grief. The audacity was almost impressive. Why are you helping me? Ethan asked. Sophie's expression hardened. Because Elena treated me terribly. She paid me barely enough to survive and made me work insane hours. She threatened to ruin my career if I ever spoke about her affair. And when she died, Marcus fired me. Said he was streamlining operations. I lost my job, my apartment, everything. Meanwhile, he's planning a fancy wedding with Sarah, using money he doesn't have, expecting you to save his gallery. She stood, leaving the folder on the table. I don't know what you'll do with this information, Mr. Clark, but I thought you deserved to know the truth. All of it. The invitation. After Sophie left, Ethan sat alone in the kitchen for hours. Rain drummed against the windows. The documents spread before him painted a picture of betrayal so complete, so carefully orchestrated, that it took his breath away. But it also gave him something valuable, leverage. He returned to his studio and stood before the collection he had created. 32 paintings, each one a masterpiece in its own right. On the surface, they depicted Elena in various poses and settings. Elena in the garden, Elena reading by firelight, Elena dancing, Elena sleeping. They were beautiful, haunting, the kind of paintings that made viewers weep with their emotion and intimacy. But under UV light, each painting revealed its shadow image. Elena with Marcus, their faces close, his hand on her waist. Elena burning the portrait, flames reflected in her eyes. Elena and Sarah laughing over wine, documents spread between them. Marcus counting money while Elena posed for him. The truth, preserved in paint and light. Ethan picked up his phone. For the first time in months, he made a call. Holloway Gallery, a receptionist answered. Ethan spread the documents across the kitchen table. Emails revealed the depth of the conspiracy. Sarah had known everything. More than that, she had encouraged it. One email from Sarah to Elena, dated 8 months before Elena's death, stood out. Stop feeling guilty. Ethan is a grown man. He'll survive a divorce. You deserve happiness, and Marcus can give you the career you've always wanted. Once you're free, we'll finally open that studio together. Just think, your photography, my graphic design, Marcus's connections. We'll be unstoppable. Ethan had his chance to see your talent, and he missed it. That's on him. Ethan's jaw tightened. Another email, from Marcus to Elena, was even worse. Sarah's right. You've wasted enough years being Ethan Clark's pretty muse. After the divorce, we'll announce our relationship at my gala. The art world loves a scandal. Your first exhibition will sell out based on the drama alone. You'll be famous not as his wife, but as yourself. Trust me, darling. I know how this world works. So it had all been calculated. Every moment, every smile, every "I love you" that Elena had spoken to him. All of it had been part of a plan to launch her own career on the ruins of his heart. There's more, Sophie said quietly. She pulled out another document. This is Marcus's gallery's financial report from last year. He's nearly bankrupt. The Holloway Gallery looks successful from the outside, but he's drowning in debt. He needs a major exhibition to save his business. Something that will bring in serious buyers. Understanding dawned on Ethan. That's why he approached me at the funeral. Sophie nodded. He's desperate. And he knows your name still carries weight. A retrospective of your work, especially pieces dedicated to your late wife, that would save him. Critics would call it the most romantic artistic gesture in decades. Collectors would pay anything for those pieces. Ethan hesitated, then stepped aside. Sophie entered, looking around at the cluttered hallway with nervous eyes. He led her to the kitchen, the only room in the house not overtaken by his work. "I'm sorry to disturb you," Sophie began, setting her wet umbrella by the door. "I know you've been dealing with everything, but I need to tell you something. Something I should have said before Elena died, but I was too afraid." Ethan's pulse quickened. "Go on." Sophie pulled a folder from her bag. "I worked for Elena for 3 years. I managed her photography projects, her schedule, her correspondence. And I knew about Marcus." She laid the folder on the table. Inside were printed emails, text message screenshots, receipts from hotels, restaurant bills for two. "I documented everything," Sophie said quietly. "Not because I wanted to hurt Elena, but because I was scared. She made me lie for her constantly, cover for her absences, send fake emails to you from her account when she was with him. I kept records in case she ever tried to blame me for something." Ethan's hands clenched. "Why are you telling me this now?" Sophie's eyes filled with tears. "Because Marcus is getting married next month. To Sarah, Elena's best friend. The same Sarah who cried at Elena's funeral. The same Sarah who hugged you and told you Elena loved you more than anything." The room tilted. Sarah, Elena's maid of honor. The woman who had helped Elena pick out her wedding dress. Who had been at their house for dinners, holidays, birthdays. They started their affair 2 months after Elena died. Sophie continued, her voice bitter. "But I think Sarah knew about Elena and Marcus all along. I found emails between them. Sarah was helping Elena plan the divorce. She was going to be Elena's photographer at Marcus's gallery. They had it all worked out. The web of lies." If you're hooked on this story, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to Twisted Heartstrings for part 2. What do you think Ethan should do? Share your thoughts in the comments below. 92 Part 2. Canvas of Deception. Word count, 2,000 words. 6 months of silence. Winter melted into spring, and Ethan Clark disappeared from the world. His phone went unanswered. His email inbox filled with unread messages. Gallery owners who once competed for his work now whispered that grief had broken him, that the great artist would never paint again. They were wrong. Behind the locked doors of his studio, Ethan worked like a man possessed. Canvas after canvas emerged from his hands. But these weren't the romantic, dreamy pieces that had made him famous. These were different, layered, complex. Each painting held secrets that only revealed themselves under specific conditions. He had spent weeks researching UV-reactive paints, phosphorescent pigments, thermochromic layers that changed with temperature. He studied techniques used by old masters to hide images beneath surface paintings. He learned from forensic artists how to conceal and reveal. Every painting would tell 2 stories. The surface would show beauty, love, devotion, everything the art world expected from Ethan Clark's tribute to his dead wife. But underneath, visible only with the right light, the truth would wait. The truth about Elena, about Marcus, about everyone who had played their parts in the deception. The unexpected visitor. On a rainy April morning, someone knocked on Ethan's door. He almost didn't answer. He looked like a hermit now, hair too long, beard untrimmed, paint permanently embedded under his fingernails. But the knocking persisted, urgent and demanding. He opened the door to find a woman in her early 30s, umbrella dripping, eyes red from crying. "Mr. Clark," she said, her voice shaking. "My name is Sophie Bennett. I was Elena's assistant. Can I please come in?" For her memory, the words curdled in Ethan's mind. He found the card now, tucked into his wallet. Marcus Holloway, owner and curator, Holloway Gallery. The most prestigious gallery in the city. An idea began to form. Cold, calculated, perfect. The plan takes shape. Ethan returned to the studio and stood before his empty easel. For 6 months, he hadn't been able to paint. Grief had stolen his ability to create. But now, feeling the weight of betrayal settling into his bones, something shifted. He wasn't grieving anymore. Grief required love, and the woman he had loved had never been real. What he felt now was clarity, purpose, Marcus Holloway had wanted to represent Ethan's work? Perfect. Elena had valued reputation above all else. Interesting. Ethan picked up his finest brush, the one Elena had given him on their first anniversary. He selected a fresh canvas, large and pristine. And then he began to paint. Not revenge. Not yet. First, he needed to create something magnificent. Something that would make Marcus desperate to work with him. Something that would lure them all in. Marcus, the art world, everyone who had smiled at Elena's funeral while knowing her secrets. He would give them an exhibition, a show dedicated to his beloved late wife. A tribute so beautiful, so moving, that no one could refuse to attend. And then, when they were all gathered, when the lights were bright and the champagne was flowing, he would show them the truth. Every lie, every betrayal, every moment of deception. He would paint it all. The first stroke. The brush touched canvas. Paint flowed. And for the first time in months, Ethan Clark smiled. Outside, the sun set over the garden where ashes still marked the burn pit. The journal lay closed on the desk, its secrets absorbed. The key sat beside it, no longer needed. In the studio, by lamplight, an artist worked. Not from love anymore. Not from pain. From something far more powerful. From the truth. Doesn't exist. She never did. I built a fire in the garden pit and threw it in, frame and all. Watching it burn felt like freedom. Marcus was right. I need to cut all ties, erase all evidence of this false life before I can step into my real one. There were only 3 more entries after that. The last one was dated September 18th, 2 days before her death. Marcus is getting impatient. He wants me to tell Ethan now, but I need to wait for the museum money to clear. Just a few more weeks of pretending. I've played this role for so long. What's a little longer? Sometimes I almost feel guilty when I see Ethan looking at me with those adoring eyes. Almost. But then I remember, he's never really seen me. He's only ever seen what he wanted to see. Ethan closed the journal. Outside, morning had turned to afternoon. Shadows grew long across the studio floor. He felt hollow, carved out from the inside. The woman he had mourned for 6 months had never existed. The marriage he had treasured had been a performance. The love he had believed in had been completely one-sided. The gallery owner's condolences. A memory surfaced. The funeral. Marcus had been there, wearing an expensive black suit, his face arranged in an expression of sympathy. He had approached Ethan by the grave, placed a hand on his shoulder. "I'm so sorry for your loss," Marcus had said. Elena was an extraordinary woman. Such a tragedy. If there's anything I can do, anything at all. The man had stood there, playing the concerned friend, when he had been the lover, when he had been planning to steal Ethan's wife, when he had helped her burn Ethan's art. And then Marcus had done something that seemed minor at the time, but now took on new meaning. He had handed Ethan a business card. "When you're ready to create again," Marcus had said quietly, "my gallery would be honored to represent your work. Elena always said you were destined for greatness. Let me help you achieve it." For her memory. The journal slipped from Ethan's hands. The autumn exhibition. That had been scheduled for October. Elena had died in September in a car accident on her way to, she had said, a photography workshop. But according to the journal, she had been meeting Marcus, planning to leave. And then fate had intervened. The burnt portrait. Ethan stood abruptly, knocking over his chair. His mind raced. He needed air. He needed to move. He stumbled out to the garden, the same garden where Elena had planted roses, where they had hosted summer parties, where she had smiled and played the role of devoted wife. That's when he saw it, the burned pit near the back fence. They used it sometimes for yard waste. But now, in the morning light, something caught his eye. A scrap of canvas, partially buried in ash. He knelt down, digging through the cold remains. His heart pounded. Piece by piece, he pulled out burnt fragments. Blue fabric, a golden frame corner, and then a piece large enough to recognize. It was Eternal Devotion, his masterpiece. The painting he had worked on for 8 months, pouring every ounce of his love onto the canvas. The portrait that had won in the museum contract. The piece he had been planning to donate to the National Gallery in Elena's memory. She had burned it. Or tried to. The fire hadn't been hot enough to destroy it completely. But the intention was clear. Ethan sat back in the dirt, surrounded by ashes and the ruins of his greatest work. A sound escaped his throat, half laugh, half sob. How long had this burnt canvas been here? Had she done it before she died? Was destroying his art part of her plan to leave him with nothing? The truth in coffee stains. He went back inside, tracking ash across the hardwood floors Elena had loved. The journal lay where it had fallen, open to a page near the end. September 3rd. I tried to destroy that ridiculous painting today. Eternal devotion, what a joke. Ethan worships an illusion. That woman on the canvas had loved. But the other part, the part that had noticed her late-night phone calls, her sudden business trips, her distant smiles, that part needed to know. He opened to the first page. March 15th. I met someone today. Someone who sees me not as Ethan's wife, but as myself. His name is Marcus. The words hit him like physical blows. Page after page, entry after entry. 3 years. Their affair had lasted 3 years. While Ethan had been painting her, loving her, building their life together, she had been building another life entirely. The man called Marcus. Marcus Holloway. Even the name tasted bitter in Ethan's mouth. He knew Marcus, of course. Everyone in the art world knew Marcus Holloway, the wealthy gallery owner with connections to every major collector in the country. The man who could make or break an artist's career with a single phone call. Marcus had attended their wedding. He had shaken Ethan's hand, toasted their happiness, smiled his perfect smile. Ethan kept reading, unable to stop even as each word carved deeper wounds. April 22nd. Marcus says I'm wasting my potential with Ethan. He says I could be famous, that I have talent beyond being just a muse. He's promised to feature my photography at his gallery. All I have to do is leave Ethan. But I can't. Not yet. Ethan's next exhibition is important. His success is my security. So that was it. She had stayed for money, for status, for the comfortable life his art provided. Love had nothing to do with it. June 10th. Ethan painted another portrait of me today. He calls it his masterpiece, Eternal Devotion. How ironic. He has no idea that while he paints me like some saint, I'm planning my exit. Marcus and I have decided, after Ethan's autumn exhibition, after he signs the new contract with the museum, I'll ask for a divorce. By then, his reputation will be secure, and I'll get half of everything. The letter that changed everything. The envelope arrived on a Tuesday morning, 6 months after Elena's funeral. Ethan Clark sat in his studio, surrounded by unfinished canvases and the ghost of turpentine smell that never quite left the air. His hands were stained with paint, his hair unwashed for days. Grief had turned him into a shadow of the celebrated artist he once was. The envelope was cream-colored, expensive paper. His name was written in Elena's handwriting, a handwriting he knew as well as his own. His heart stopped. For a moment, he wondered if he was losing his mind. She was gone. He had watched them lower her coffin into the ground. He had thrown the first handful of dirt onto the polished wood. With trembling fingers, he opened it. Inside was a small brass key and a note in her elegant script. For Ethan. To be opened after I'm gone. The truth you deserve to know. E. The key was cold against his palm. He knew immediately what had opened. The locked drawer in her desk, the one she had always kept private. Just old letters and memories. She had told him once, kissing his cheek. Nothing important, darling. He had never questioned it. Trust had been the foundation of their marriage. Or so he had believed. The desk drawer of secrets. Ethan walked to her study like a man moving through water. Everything was exactly as she had left it. Her reading glasses on the desk. A coffee cup with faded lipstick marks on the rim. The air still held a faint trace of her perfume, jasmine and vanilla. The drawer was small, built into the antique writing desk they had bought together in Paris during their honeymoon. His hand shook as he inserted the key. The lock clicked. Inside was a leather journal, its pages thick and well-worn. He lifted it out. The weight of it felt wrong, dangerous. Part of him wanted to throw it into the fireplace unread, to preserve the memory of the woman he